So Walmart, you were just talking about, they just fired a couple hundred of their corporate executives. So we're not talking about the checkers at the stores. We're talking about the expensive, management guys who usually get to avoid the layoffs. Oracle is laying off thousands of people. Robinhood laying off 23% of staff. Shopify just laid off 1,000 people. 7-Eleven just laid off 880 corporate managers. Ford is announced it's going to lay off 8,000 workers. Rivian, the truck startup, is laying off hundreds, and they're still flush with their IPO cash. Tesla is laying off 10% of its workers. Verizon and T-Mobile are having large layoffs. They didn't disclose the actual amount. Victoria's Secret is laying off their management. So, we hear, when I brought this up, people say, yeah, tech is going through a bit of a correction. Yeah, but tech's not the entire economy. Well, a lot of our biggest companies are in tech, but a lot of the companies I just mentioned there were not technology companies, right? And then just to end, Amazon, which is a technology company, but it's a massive consumer company now. They laid off over 100,000 workers in Q2, right? I mean, that is a massive amount of layoffs, and that's just one single company, right? So, we may still be at the tropical depression stage here, but we're already seeing really pretty serious style layoffs, not just the hiring freezes we've been talking about over the past couple of weeks, but like real layoffs going on right now. So,
you're seeing that jobless claims have been slowly ticking up. They're not spiking higher, right? But they are ticking up.
Yep. And look, we talk about how the jobless numbers are lagging. These layoff announcements that I just mentioned are leading, right? Because these companies oftentimes are announcing the layoffs before they actually implement them. A lot of times they give the workers, 2 months or so before the actual layoff takes effect and whatnot. But again, I just want to point out the disconnect between those of us that are looking forward are seeing versus those of who are beating their chests about the lagging data, right? All right. So I look at this and just think it's very hard to come up with a bullish case a fundamentally bullish case for the markets. For a bull market rally that takes the economy to new highs and then resets a new bull market. Because I just see the fundamentals just deteriorating before our eyes here, Lance. Am I missing something, or are you as concerned sort of where things could be in 6 months, 12 months from here at this trajectory on a fundamentals basis?
Well, yeah, I mean, okay. So first of all, we got to put this a little bit into context, right? So you're talking, if you total all those layoffs up, right? Let's total them up, double them, because they generally lay off more than they say they're going to lay off. So it's 1 million people, right?
Okay, and that might even be generous at this point, but I got you.
That might be generous. So it's 1 million people out of 130 million employees. Okay, so it's a dent, right? At this point, it's more like a rock chip.
Yep.
But your point though is that this is where it starts, and as we talked about before, corporations go through stages. It's hard to hire employees, and this is actually Michael Leibowitz and I had a really good discussion about this Tuesday or Wednesday. We were on the phone just kind of going through different numbers, and it's interesting because like this employment report today, you saw that there was a whole bunch of multiple job holders, right? Well, what's been the one kind of thing that's been weighing on the market lately, right? We've had all these job openings and people couldn't find employees to come work for them because they didn't need full-time employees. They needed part-time employees. So there's all these job openings for part-time employees that they couldn't find people to work for because people were finding full-time jobs. Now, all of a sudden,
or they were retiring early,
or they're retiring early, whatever it is. But now, all of a sudden, there is people available for a part-time job, right? I got laid off from Amazon. Now I've got to have a part-time job or 2 or 3, which explains this. Maybe explains why we have this surge in multiple job holders. They lost their full-time job, and now they're getting multiple jobs. And I thought this was always interesting because they talked about, well, job hoppers are making so much more money. Well, the problem with being a job hopper is that you're the low man on the totem pole.
Right.
And you have no experience in that job. So yeah, you may have hopped over to a new job, and now the company is realizing that, well, maybe I overpaid you for that job. And, all my other seasoned employees I want to try to keep. So you're first in, first out is the way that goes.
Last
right?
to hire, first to fire. Yeah, exactly.
And so we're going to see a lot of that. And I think a lot of these job hoppers are going to wind up unemployed sooner than later because, again, what companies look for. And we saw this back in 2008. In 2008, we had a lot of terminations from companies. And when companies started hiring again, they didn't hire the people that got laid off or fired. They were robbing other companies of their employees. That was the first step. So as soon as companies started saying, economy's starting to recover here, I need to hire employees, they started raiding other companies. Why? Well, I want the guy that didn't lose his job because apparently that guy knows what he's doing.
Right,
and he's good at his job. So I'll pay up for that guy, bring him over. And then once I've hired all those then I start hiring the people that got laid off and fired.
Right.
So, I think we'll see. I think a lot of these people who are job hopping are going to figure out their mistake as they go forward. But, as we said, companies go through phases. Hiring employees is very expensive. It's very time consuming. It's very demanding because you got to train them. And once you get good employees, you don't want to let them go because they're hard to hire back. So, the first thing to do is hiring freezes. Then once you can't do a hiring freeze anymore and you've got to lay off, you start laying off new employees first. You start laying off, your underperformers, et cetera. Google just recently announced, they said, y'all need to figure out how to get your performance up because we're thinking about making some changes. So, that's that first warning sign that those that don't get the performance up likely going to be losing their job at Google. And then, so once you kind of go through that phase, then you get into serious layoffs, and that'll occur in 2023 once the economic demand destruction really shows up.
Right, and that's when the slow bleed becomes a hemorrhage, right? At that point,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
So agree with everything you said. You brought up something important, which is in the short term, and this probably is a fair amount what we're seeing in this latest jobs report, which will be spun positively, but as people who get laid off need to go find a new job, or all the people who retired early because their portfolios were doing great, and then we had the bear market, or what feels like a bear market this year, and they're realizing I can't retire on this. I got to go back, right? So they're coming into the economy, and it's looking like, I guess technically more part-time jobs are being handed out now to these people, right? But it's not good fundamental reasons why these people are having to go get those jobs. So the thing I want to flag here is if you're in a population like that, or if you either feel like your job currently is vulnerable, or you're an early retiree who is realizing, maybe I actually can't just exist on what I thought I had, there's a first mover advantage to going and trying to secure as safe a job as you can right now, because they are highly likely going to be drying up pretty quickly as we head into the second half of this year for the reasons that Lance and I have just been talking about. In other words, if you're thinking about this, let's say you're an early retiree and you're like, I probably should, but I've got some things I want to do beforehand. You may come back in December and those jobs just might not be there anymore. And don't forget too, not only is that just where the fundamentals are heading, but the Federal Reserve is actually trying to engineer that outcome. They don't want those excess jobs. I mean, Powell has been very specific that that's what he's going after for here. So, I made the joke we talked about the other week that the best performing asset for the next year is going to be keeping your job, keeping an income. And I hate to, it's sort of gallows humor when I laugh at that, but anyways, folks, if you're in that situation where losing your income would be quite painful going forward, now is the time to take whatever steps you can to try to either make that income more safe or add other forms of income that may get you through what may be coming here. If you enjoyed this video clip, click here to watch another one you should like.